Sorry, I was muted the whole time. Good thing I decided to check this. Okay. That's just going to loop because I unmuted my mic for a sec. Hold on. Actually, I don't know if that's why that's looping. Why is that looping? Is all my sound coming out twice? Hold on, let's check Twitch real quick. Why would my sound be looping? All right, doesn't happen on Twitch. How about now on YouTube? Okay, it was just on my end. There's no looping. Cool. So, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna rip out some stuff and move some stuff around. So let me just 0.5 and 1 attack configuration, villain states. Okay, so we're gonna have there's a header somewhere here, villain states, right? Instead of throwing these all on villain, maybe I'll move these to enemy state machine. Entity state machine. Oh, it's I kept saying enemy state machine. It's entity state machine. I know what I call stuff. Okay, so entity state machine. So maybe villain is the right home for this, not villain state. It's either the villain or the villain state. And then what we do is we throw all the settings for each thingamabop in here. But I think, yeah, let's go like this. We're going to throw this actually in here. And that's what we're going to do. And then this is going to be chase villain state dot settings. It's public. It exists. What's going on here? Public class settings. Oh. Sorry. I thought this namespace scope was my class. So maybe this is the better way to do that. And then how does this come up in my editor? Oh, it's just called settings. That's not useful. Oh, because this is called settings. Oh, my bad. That Should change the name. No, it's still called settings. Why is it still called settings? Oh, because it's not compiled. Chase settings. Okay. That works. So here's what I'm gonna do. And patrol. Let's go to patrol state. Oh, there is no patrol state. What? Oh, we have a timed behavior villain state. Right, it's more generic than that. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. I was so smart when I wrote this. Okay, so wait, hold on. I'm seeing something different here. I'm seeing something different here. So my chase state, instead of creating a separate state for my chase state, I could just reuse the timed behavior villain state. Maybe. Well, timed one goes on a timer. Chasing. I don't know if chasing will go on a timer yet. So maybe not. Maybe not. But okay, let's get this pattern established for now. Patrol duration. I see. Ah, it's ugly. Oh, what a pain in the butt. What a pain in the butt. Because patrol duration, and idle duration, those are all distinct to this guy. But what is this? Behavior to toggle duration, patrol duration. And then start animation, in animation. Start animation and next state. So my thought was grab all of these things, bundle them all in settings and throw them all in separate classes. And then instead of having all of these fields would compress and we would have like chase settings, attack settings, and patrol settings. But because patrol isn't its own state, it's a timed behavior state, that would change this into duration range. That would change this, yeah. Like if we go here and create settings on here, all of these things would come up. Well, there's a benefit to this as well, maybe, because then instead of having a parameter explosion here, if we ever change this class, we would just have another, well, we'd have a parameter on another class that would be exploding. Right? So those would all get bundled up and go under their own. Right. And all this in the interest of not having my villain blow up with tons of new settings. And also to make it more uniform so that we could turn some things on and off. Like maybe some enemies don't have a patrol phase. I don't know. And then my other idea, because I had to break this up and then do these if statements. My other idea was in my state machine, the entity state machine was to make a public builder register if. Hey, what was this trying to bake? Register state without a key? That doesn't even make any sense. Whatever. Register if. And then this would be function condition. That's a little more complicated than what I was going to do. I don't think it has to be a function. We can just do T state key. Key. T. Oh, I state. Right? And then instead of function bool, I don't like that. Should register. And then the idea is, yeah, should register, then register. And then return this because it's a builder. And now what that lets me do is that lets me go in here and clean up this pattern. Although I was trying to decide if I should do it all at once or not. It's a whole other thing. Because then I'd be able to go here and I'd be able to change this to a dot register if chase settings dot, right, which would be a lot cleaner. It would fit into my Fluent API better. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to commit that yet. We're going to use it after. We're going to build it like this first. Then we'll take another step back. Just to keep my commits smaller because I don't know what this is going to look like. Can chase. So, yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think ideally, I don't think it's possible though. Is it possible to serialize a map in the Unity editor? I'd like to dynamically create a dictionary in the Unity editor on my script. Yes, but not natively using standard C#. Unity's built-in serialization engine does not support dictionary types, meaning a standard dictionary field marked with serialized field won't have data show up in the inspector. However, you have a few clean ways to achieve this. Unity's built-in iSerialization callback receiver, no plugins. Unity allows you to use lists which are serializable to store keys and values for the inspector. Oh, that's cool. So I'd have like a key value pair? No. What the frig does that even look like? For each var pair in my dictionary? What? What? What is this nonsense? What? What is this font size 100%? Are you okay, Gemini? You just put CSS in the dictionaries property. In the classes, my dictionary property. What? Option 2, a list of key. This is what I was imagining. A list of key value structs. That might be better. That might be the better overall direction of this. And then that removes me from even having to create I want to try it now. Is it too dynamic? I want to try it though. So, and then do I do it here or do I do it in a separate step? The other thing too is I could straight up do that first and then add the villain stuff. Like I was going to add the villain stuff and then refactor, but might as well refactor before, right? So let's revert all of this. And I'm going to revert this. And then here's my idea. Actually, how the heck is this even going to work? Hold on. Because I want to have the configuration settings also show up there. But how would that work? I think I can do it with a scriptable object. I want to see if it comes up with other ways to do that. Depends on whether the settings types vary per item or if every item is the exact same thing. Same settings, right, which would be super easy. Polymorphic settings. If you need different fields, Unity standard serialization won't render derived classes in the inspector by default. To fix this, use Unity's serialized reference attribute, which tells Unity to save polymorphic C# classes directly. Serializable base settings. That's what I was thinking. Oh, as long as they all extend it. Oh, serialized reference. You guys, this might be gigantic. That is crazy. I'm very curious about this, so I do want to try this. How do we do this? Each state would have to have its own stuff. Right? And then time villain behavior also kind of falls apart a little bit. Does it? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Whoa. Okay. Time behavior villain state. This is interesting. This is really interesting. Okay, so let me get my brain together here. So what's the order of things I have to do here? Villain state. We will add something here. We'll have a serializable class called settings. It's not going to be called base settings, just settings. And it's going to be an empty class. And I mean, in theory, it should be abstract. I don't know if it can be serializable and abstract. Oh, yeah, cool. It can be. That's exactly what they did. Oh, we don't know. AI is full of shit sometimes. So hold on. This is what we're going to try. And oh, baby. I'm going to try adding this in and sort of maintaining what I have a little bit. I don't know. What I really should do is a clean sweep of all of this. Like attack configuration. Let me take a look at attack configuration real quick. What we're going to do, everything's expanded here. Let's just take a screenshot of this. And then let's go to today. And we're going to do basic villain refactor. Right? Goals. Make basic villain more dynamic. Add ad hoc state machine in Unity editor. Allow adding arbitrary states. And allow each state to have its own custom configuration. Attached. Right? So here's the idea. Use a list of custom of a state data or some such. Use a list of dynamic state or what do we call it? Editor state. Editor state. It's not a bad idea. Editor state or some such where editor states contains all useful information. So that'd be something like, does it have to be serializable? Yeah, because it has to show up. So something like serializable public class. Editor state, and then it would be something like, you know, how is this even gonna work? Wait a minute. I don't know if it's gonna work with generics is the thing. The key, yeah, enemy state key. I don't know if any of this is gonna work because now we have generics, and generics adds like a whole layer of complexity that we might not want to get involved with. We're gonna try it though, but it would have to be something like, actually, wait, hold on. I don't think we need to use the generics because we have villain state key. It's concrete. It is concrete here. The entity is villain, and the state key is villain state key. These are concrete, so we don't have to make it super duper dynamic because it boils down to everything's going into the state machine anyway. So we need to have villain and villain state key. Boom, problem solved. So that becomes something like, and we don't even need the villain. We just need the key. And what is the value? Oh gosh. The key is the key from here. That's a no-brainer. The value is an instance of a class. This is starting to fall apart now. How is the value going to be the instance of a class? Did they solve this? That gets me the settings, right? Which is good. Which is also kind of good. I think it still comes down to scriptable object, which might even remove scriptable objects. It might also remove that dependency on the setting struct itself, because that could maybe be part of the scriptable object. Trying to make my state machine configurable from Unity editor. Right now, registration code looks like this. And actually, the interesting thing about this is that I could just loop over this now. I could loop over the key value pairs in the order that they appear. It doesn't really have to be in order, right? The only thing is that having now those keys to values, we'd have to sort of, deduplicate it somehow. Maybe on validate, it would have to remove duplication, just so that it's like clear on the UI that you can't have the same state twice. Which requires instances of classes to be created. How do we serialize these class instances in the editor? I think it's going to say to use scriptable objects. Since these are reference types that contain state-specific configuration parameters, that allows Unity to track, right. Here's how you can set this up cleanly. Mark your base state and derived states. I'm not talking about the states anymore, though. Oh, to mark those as serializable. Create a serialized binding struct class. Oh, they're saying to use an interface. Which I have already. Right? Villain state. I have my I state. This might be too abstract, though. Like, I might have to swap that out for a... wrap that in something, basically, to make it just a plain I villain state. And when I say wrap that in something, I just mean like do a public interface. Right? And then this would be I state like that. Just so that we could say I villain state. As just like a nicety. Which maybe I should have just done anyways. And then instead of saying, oh, but I state machine needs 2 parameters. I think I state machine still needs both parameters. Hey, we tried. But let's see. We're playing around with code here. It's definitely way more complicated than it needs to be, but the idea and like I can play, so I have two choices, right? I can play around with this idea to see how far I can take this, or I can kind of go the path I was going before, just add a new state and make the state optional, like toggleable, and then each state can just be toggled. That's like the most basic way. The other way is to make it fully dynamic, where each villain is configured specifically with the behaviors that we want it to have, specific states that we want it to have. We're not at the point yet where we need this level of abstraction. This is more like something now that's become a side interest to me to see if this is even possible. So what does this become? So I villain state, I villain state. Oh, and then this gets rid of the embedded serialize thing. And so let me also go here. Before. Let me grab that. I took a screenshot and then I completely removed it because I want to keep track of, like, I want to do a before and after to compare it to see what it looks like before. Let's put, actually, editor screenshots. Table. Oops. Yeah, editor before. But actually what we're going to do is go in here. We're going to horse around with this for a bit. We're going to horse around with this. And instead of having this, but does it make sense for this whole class to be serializable? They're not mono behaviors though, right? It's not a mono behavior. It's a villain state, which is an I state, which is an interface. I'm all sneezy this morning. Okay. So let's start building some of this out piece by piece. What is, oh. Yeah. So this becomes a serialize, but serialize field. Yeah, this is a mono behavior now. These are serialized fields too. Serialized field work on non-mono behavior classes. Non-mono behavior class must be marked with a system serializable. Okay. So that means all my states have to be serializable. What are the side effects to making my state classes all serializable? I mean, that's basically what we're saying we want to do. It's super convenient, but it introduces a few specific architectural and runtime side effects you should keep in mind. The shared data versus live state problem, accidental state mutation. When Unity serializes an instance of a state class attached to a model behavior, that state instance is unique to that specific game object, but its values are saved into the scene prefab asset. The trap. If your state contains internal runtime variables, current timer, target position, Unity will serialize those runtime values too. If you tweak variables at runtime during play mode, Unity might preserve those mutated values when exiting play mode, which I think is still fine. If you want to keep your serialized fields strictly for configuration data parameters and always reset or initialize runtime state variables. Deep copying and reference loss, no shared instances, which is also, I think, what we're trying to do. Standard Unity serialization value copies non-mono behavior objects. Side effect. If you assign the exact same idle state instance to 5 enemies, Unity serializer will duplicate that data for each enemy upon saving. They will not share memory. Class renaming. Idle villain state renaming. Unity won't know that they are the same thing. Boilerplate parameterless constructors required. For you to instantiate a non-mono behavior serializable class, the class must have a public parameterless constructor. Performance and memory overhead. Every serialized class adds a small amount of memory overhead to your scene files and build size. When Unity loads a scene or prefab, it has to deserialize all of those nested class objects, which slightly increases load times compared to lightweight enum state machines that just read a single scriptable file object. Summary checklist. Runtime variables getting saved. Renaming classes wipes editor values. Loss of pure constructor injection. Combined with initialized dependencies methods at awake. Yeah, because that's kind of what we're doing. I don't know if it's going to be good. Let's try it just to see. So, okay, so what we're going to do here. Let me go here and start by adding a serializable public class settings. You got it. And this is going to have all those variables in it. All the ones that we take in the constructor, which is mono behavior to toggle, duration range, start animation, next state, boom. Got him. Oh, animation state is not serializable, probably. Redundant. Why is it redundant? These are the animation states. So this one might already fall apart, but let's just see. So we'll start off by trying to replace this with that. And then the next thing that we're going to need I don't know where this is going to live yet. But yeah, and then this state, yeah, that's fine. So villain. So we either create it on the villain or we create it on the well, there's no villain state machine, so I think it has to live here. So what is this, the class? Yeah, that's the villain class. And then I think what we're going to do is create public. It's going to be serializable class. Actually, it doesn't have to be public. I don't think. It's going to be class. What was I going to call it here? Editor state. Oh, true. Villain state. Hello. What's up, Satya? How am I going to make this work here? State. I don't know what to call it. State. Villain. The villain state is already a thing, right? Isn't it? Don't I? Yeah, I already have villain state here. Ooh. I don't want to call it like state data because that's also weird. Is this about a 2D platformer? We are creating a 2D platformer. Yes. Villain. Oh, dynamic state. Configuration, dynamic state, entry. Right? Or like entry or record, right? And so then we'll have kind of, we'll have a, ooh, close. We'll have a state key. And then we need to have a oof. So I think this also has to be serializable, which means this has to be serializable. Does that mean that? This is so weird. But sure, but then all of this becomes serialized field. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, because it's read only. Why Unity? Why not Unreal? That's a good question because Unity is the first one I decided to try. There's no reason. Well, there's a couple of reasons. I'm working on a few different projects right now, and this one happens to be my Unity project. So I have one project in Unity, I have one project in Godot, and eventually I'm going to do one project in Unreal. So one of the biggest reasons why I left Unreal for last is because Unreal is more designed for 3D than anything else. Now, of course, 2D is just 3D minus 1D. Yeah. And so, of course, you can do 2D in 3D. You just don't use the third D. You only use the first 2Ds. And so that's okay. But Unity and Godot both have kind of built-in support for 2D out of the box. So that was one reason. The other reason, and this is kind of how I rank the three, is the heaviness of the editors themselves. Unity kind of sits in the middle. I didn't know that really at the start. Oh, I guess I did because I did try Unreal a little bit. And just going through Unreal tutorials and lessons and things like that. I spent a few days in Unreal and I didn't even write any code yet. Yeah, that's correct, D. Right. So I spent a few days in Unreal Engine not really producing much. So it felt a little bit slower. Not that that's a problem, right? Godot being probably the fastest, most lightweight editor so far. The editor itself runs pretty quickly. It launches fast. It's more lightweight on the system in terms of what it requires. My computers are all pretty powerful, but that is something I did take into consideration. And just like how easy and how cross-platform it was. Now, I think they're all fairly cross-platform, right? Now, mobile and desktop and eventually game consoles are like sort of milestones that I'm trying to cover. And Unity seems to be the most easily cross-platform. Like it seems to be the easiest to integrate into mobile, desktop, and whatever. And the other thing is the licensing. And the way I rank the licensing is actually Godot's on top, being fully open source, and we don't have to worry about any licensing fees. But it does become a problem, of course, once you get into platform-specific things. Yep, Unreal kind of feels like too much in terms of structure, too much inheritance makes it a bit heavy think. Yeah, I just like the editor itself just takes a really long time to open. And I also do a lot of work on the different operating systems. I don't really do any work on Windows. I did try it for a little while though. I do most of my dev work on Mac or Linux. And having what's the word I'm looking for? First class support for Linux was great. So Godot wins out on Linux. Godot is like the most Linux compatible. Unity was a little bit more annoying to get working on Linux, and I haven't tried Unreal on Linux. I don't know if Unreal on Linux exists. I think for game dev, I think people expect you to be using Windows, which I am not a fan of for development. Even component structure is a bit complicated compared to other engines. Yeah. So I haven't done my full my goal basically is to launch a full product in every one of these engines, just those three, and kind of see from start to end what the developer experience is like. I guess mostly what the developer experience is like. The developer experience, and then kind of also how it affects end users, right? Because I don't want to be working with something that's going to be much, much harder to work with. That's not going to give me much benefit, right? And then how it's going to affect people on the other end. So like in general, Unreal games, they do look very nice. Like if I do 3D, if I start doing 3D stuff, Unreal is like way more attractive to me. Now, I think Unity and Unreal can both look just as good, but I think it seems like Unreal's got a better reputation for just looking really, really good. And it gives you, well, I don't know what the current situation is, but there was the asset store that gave you access to all those really high quality model scans, which you can also use in Unity and Godot, most likely. But in general, the games that I see being built in Unreal, and maybe it's an unfair comparison because AAA titles are generally built in Unreal or Unity, right? For the most part. But they're just big. So like any game that I download that's that I install on my computer that's been made in Unreal, a lot of times it's like the smallest one is like 30 gigs, and that's mostly because of the assets, which you wouldn't really have in a 2D game. And like the outlier, a good example is Octopath Traveler, which is 2.5D. Uses pixel art on top of a 3D environment, and that 3D environment is also using pixel art textures. So that game is very small, and it's built in Unreal. That game's like, I don't know, each one is like 2 to 3 gigs, I think, which is really good. So that's like proof that the game doesn't have to be gigantic, which is reassuring. But yeah, I just haven't gotten around to building my first Unreal project yet, start to finish. I didn't even really like fully finish my Godot project. But yeah, Unity was the first one. So this is actually the first project I started. And I'm working on trying to get this to a point where I can sort of release it. And it might not go like on the Steam store or anything like that. I might just do itch. Yep, actual source files are more like assets and visual presentation than code itself. It makes it heavy like hell. Yeah, and the other thing too was like sort of barrier to entry. Barrier to entry, is that what I want to call it? Like the friction to get started with Unreal. It just seemed like more overwhelming to get started in Unreal, which also might make it not a bad idea to get into and like start making my own videos and things, because most of the videos you see on the internet are in Unity. And like that was one of the things I worried about with Unity, is that there's so much information about Unity. It's almost like, to compare it to a language, it's almost like the JavaScript of game development. And what I mean by that is there's like anybody can do it. So many people are doing it that there's a lot of information, which is both good and bad. There's a lot of information, but you don't know what's good information, like what's good quality information, what's good advice versus what's bad advice of what to do in Unity. A lot of it is just people like, hey, I got this thing to work. I'm going to show you how I did it. And you don't know if it's good or not. That's a great POV. Yeah. So that's kind of these are all the things that I'm weighing. Where I think if I got into Unreal, it's probably more like, it's like scarier for a lot of other people to get into, especially the programming. And that was another thing too. Most of the Unreal, I was going through courses on Udemy to learn most of this stuff, at least to get a foundation. And a lot of the Unity courses were all using blueprints. And I don't want to use blueprints. I want to actually write the code. And it was like really difficult to find any information on actually writing C++ code in Unreal. I think I said Unity, but I meant Unreal. And so that's kind of, these are all the things that I was weighing. But even considering all that, once I finish this game, I'm going to try to build a game in Unreal. And again, that one I expect to be more friction because less information on 2D in Unreal, less information on writing code in Unreal. Everyone wants to make these big, AAA title look-alike, super fancy 3D games in Unreal. And once I do Unreal, once I do a 3D game, I'm probably going to do the same, what's the word I'm looking for? Same analysis. And again, okay, let's do 3D in Godot, 3D in Unity, 3D in Unreal, and then see what the dev experience is like. I don't know if this is going to work. I have an error. State key. Public settings. What was that under? I had a villain state. I think that's what it's called. Villain state dot settings. Maybe just start with that. Oh, and then the state itself. That's a great POV. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And this is scary that that's unused. Villain state is serializable, which makes me think, yeah, it's not possible to serialize this maybe. It's going to say it's redundant. Oh no, force Unity to serialize a private field. You're redundant. Is it redundant because this thing is serializable? Why is it redundant? Or is it redundant because this is serializable? I don't know. Then I got to figure out how I'm going to get these things in the editor in the first place. Right? But let's just try. So what I'm trying to do right now is probably stupid and I probably shouldn't waste my time on it, but I'm just curious to see if it's possible. Is I'm going to create a serialized field. It lets me use an array. Do I want an array or do I want a list? Serialized fields, is there an advantage? What's the advantage of array over list or vice versa? When working with serialized field, both like arrays and lists are fully supported. However, they have distinct trade-offs under the hood. Lower memory overhead, 0 GC allocations when iterating. Iterating with a for loop over an array produces 0 garbage collector allocations. Oh, and avoids the heap overhead. Explicit fixed size, which doesn't really matter because we're not going to add stuff. Disadvantages, expensive to resize, which we're not doing at runtime. Less API flexibility. This is the only thing I was really thinking about. Dynamic, right, which we don't care about. Instant access to convenience methods, which we also don't care about. Better fit for dynamic state machines. Perfect if entities can gain or lose states on the fly. Oh, yeah, I didn't consider that. Can they gain or lose states? I don't think so. That doesn't even make sense. Like I would just always have, like one enemy would always have the same states regardless. We would just disable them, not delete them. Higher memory footprint for each enumerator garbage. Certain AOT platforms could sometimes allocate smaller enumerator object on the heap. Yeah, usually I think it does. Inspector, identical. Serializer support, native. Runtime modification. I don't think we need. Memory allocation, minimal. I think looping speed, bare metal fastest. Yeah, I don't think for game configuration, serialized state machine lists. It's saying that because it's saying that I would want to have that. The inspector handles expanding and reordering elements effortlessly, and the C# API flexibility at runtime usually far outweighs any micro optimization. Well, that's what I'm worried about too. Is this just a micro optimization? Static buffers, waypoints, fixed equipment slots, particle pools, or low-level hot code paths like heavy update loops. I think we just make it a list for the time being. I don't have a good reason to, but I don't have a good reason not to. So I'm going with this for the more flexible API aspect of it. Dynamic states. So this would replace all of this, which would break all of this. But this has a behavior thing in it. And that was used multiple times because it has to have a default state. No, actually, there's no reason for this. I think I just did that to make the code read better. We're just ripping shit out. Yeah, boy. Yeah. Oh, and then we should have a default state. Yeah, look at that. That comes here as default state. I don't know if any of this is going to be possible, by the way. And then what we have to do is, yeah, for each entry in states. Oh, so this does kind of get split up a bit. Then we say state machine dot register. Oh, then my register if idea comes back. I think I still have that, right? Cannot find a declaration. Get out of here. Oh. That's right, because this is not a state machine. State machine builder. All right. So let's register if. Register state dot key. Oh. Oh. So hold on. Right? This way we can go here and say entry. Oh. I do like the way this code looks because this prevents our code in here from blowing up. I just don't know if it's going to work. And then let's create a, what do we have? We had that, and then we had attack state. Was the other one? So attack villain state would also have to be serializable, I believe. These would also go from read only to serialized field. And let's just see if anything explodes. Probably everything will explode. Null reference exception. There's nothing we have to worry about right now. There's a lot of errors in here. Now let's look at here. Oh, look at this states. Oh, look at this default state idle. Let's see if we can add anything. Why did this just blow up? LDTK, all LDTK errors. I'm not concerned. Oh, look at that. So this this is kind of cool, but we need to be able to set the state also somehow. I don't think these can be serializable, which is kind of what I assumed. But you see how cool this would be to be able to dynamically set this up this way? So I could be like, oh, state, patrol, chase, right? Or something like that. And then we'd be able to assign it to a behavior. Mono behavior. I don't think this can be. Yeah. AI said we could do it, but I think AI is full of crap. Pick concrete classes in the inspector. Yeah, but how do we pick them? Subclass selector. What? That's interesting. Serialized reference. Oh, because we didn't do serialized reference. State instance. I think my thing here is half baked. Yeah, it shouldn't be serialized field. It should be serialized reference, and it should be, what was the thing? Subclass selector. The frig is subclass selector. Did they just make this? Oh. Standard Unity doesn't show a drop-down menu to pick which subclass to assign to a serialized reference fields out of the box. Installing a free helper like serialized reference extensions or using Odin Inspector adds a neat subclass selector. And then I think maybe that's also serialized reference. Let's see what that changes. Does it build? How about SDL and OpenGL? Oh, to like build my own engine? I think SDL and OpenGL are both great. Yeah, it doesn't let me assign it. I need one of those helpers. Maybe it's because I don't have a parameterless constructor. What do I like the most about games? Like playing them? I think there's a lot of things to like about games. There's different kinds of games too, right? I guess one thing I like is that they make me think. You know, problem solving is, and it's like fun. There's like a fun loop of problem solving. The issue you're running into is that Unity's default inspector renderer doesn't know how to instantiate or assign C# classes. Right. By default, Unity draws them as null because it doesn't provide a dropdown to pick concrete subclasses. Here are the 3 best ways: custom, property, cleanest. Available natively in newer Unity releases. Huh. If your Unity version doesn't render it, you can grab a single, right, like this. Self-initializing settings states no plugins. If you don't want to install open source, you make them settings object to property inside the village state itself rather than keeping them as separate fields. Because Unity will know which state you pick, the settings instance can be constructed automatically. Oh, that's true. I just answered my own question. If I have this, why do I need this? Right? I guess because there's no default values on any of this stuff. Oh, this doesn't have to be. My bad. Which now also becomes redundant. But let's just see. Yeah, but features, visuals, mechanisms, creativity. What do you enjoy most about them? Oh, I see what you mean. Like the individual games themselves. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. What do I enjoy the most? I guess is the feel. Probably game feel is probably the most important, but game feel is like a bunch of things. It's kind of a cop out answer because the visuals are very important. Like visuals and audio, the audio visual is definitely very important. But audio visual to me doesn't necessarily mean like, yeah, it should look good and it should sound good and it should feel good. But that doesn't mean it has to be like super realistic graphics, right? Like it can be a very stylized thing. So that's also creativity. But the way it feels is very important. Like if a game doesn't feel good, and then when I say feel good, I mean like kind of feedback that you get when I press a button and something happens. I think that's the most important. Like if the game feels clunky, like did a couple passes, and I'm probably gonna have to do a couple more passes to clean up the mechanics of my game. Ugh, I want this to work so badly. That error is not related. Huh. Let me double check on this subclass selector. My personal favorite game? Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I like different games and for different reasons. I just remember to have this and I have to drink it. It's like, why am I so hungry? I didn't have this yet. Mm. I think the game I play the most right now is Overwatch. And I do like competitive shooters because that triggers a lot of things. It's like there's a skill that I can have that I can work on that I can always improve on. I can constantly like it forces me to constantly improve myself to get better at it. Here's the plot twist: Unity Engine has no native built-in attribute named subclass selector. I knew it. You lied to me. While Unity introduced the underlying serialized reference attribute back in 2019.3, Unity itself never shipped a built-in subclass selector attribute. It's famous community standard name used by open source libraries and extensions. Mackie Shift GitHub for generic type support. I think that's good. Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of what I like about those. And I also like that there's action. It's like a little bit fast paced, or rather, the pacing on it is a little bit dynamic. There are times when it gets like really fast, and there's times when like you can kind of relax and slow down. And again, I like it makes me think. There's like a technical aspect of it, a mechanical aspect that there's mechanics that I want to get better at playing and controlling. And that goes back into the feel of things, like the way the mechanics feel. Because the mechanics, it really does feel really good, that game. Even though there's games where it feels bad because you just can't do anything. The actual mechanics of the game always feel good. Like it feels responsive, you know, when I do something. Unless I'm like lagging or something like that. There are times when that happens. But overall, it's actually a really well-made game. Even though I complain about it all the time, the game itself is actually really, really well made. But I also really like Final Fantasy series is maybe my favorite game, and that's what made me want to get into game development when I was younger. Was Final Fantasy. Always surprised by Apex Legends, like features, implementation, and stuff, and overall back-end optimization. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's probably an Unreal game. Actually, so something I really liked about I didn't like it at first, but I kind of understood it and it was like, I actually kind of like after I got used to it, I kind of liked it. One of the things I liked about the Unreal Engine is that it would sort of do this. I don't know. There's probably a word for it. I don't know what it's called, but as a gamer, as a end user of it, it's something that you can visibly see, especially in the older Unreal games, is that it would load the entire scene, and it would load this sort of like low resolution version of the scene to like optimize the loading. Like, hey, the game is loaded in. It doesn't look fantastic, but if you wait a few seconds for your computer to catch up, it does like another pass of like I don't know if it was just anti-aliasing or like it just like the quality's improved significantly. And I always wondered why it did that. And like those sort of optimizations I thought was really cool because it's like, okay, the hardware can't really keep up, but if you give it a sec, yeah, I think it's using Valve's source engine. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Wait, is Apex Legends on Steam? EA. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Is that like the primary distribution is through Steam? I was pretty sure I played this game, but I guess I didn't. The biggest thing for me is I don't like these. I don't want to call it a survival shooter, which I think is what it said over here somewhere. I don't like battle royale. Is not my thing. Also, it's kind of weird. People really seem to be into randomness, like roguelikes and battle royale, both very popular. I don't like the random. I like things to be the same every time. I know that's like super boring for most people, but that's one type of game that I really enjoy. Is like every time you play it, you get the same experience. Or if it's the kind of thing where like you play through the game once, maybe there's a new game plus, or you play through a different difficulty and things are a little bit different or moved around or whatever, that's fine too. But I don't really like when the game is random every time. Like, oh, you get this random set of power ups. You don't know what you're gonna get, so everything's like a crapshoot. It's like a dice roll every time, and like, I don't like that as a mechanic. But it's weird because the same sort of random number generator mechanic, like actually maybe my favorite game of all time. I did say Final Fantasy at first, but maybe Diablo might be my favorite game of all time. And Diablo's game loop was, yeah, sort of the same every time, but everything was RNG in Diablo. The original Diablo and Diablo 2, everything is RNG. It's all random numbers. And I think what I liked about that was doing the runs where you don't know what you're gonna get. You know, like, and there's a lot of the way they used randomness was good. The dungeons were randomized, randomly generated. It didn't feel randomly generated. I don't know how to explain that, right? Like it felt like there was a fixed set of dungeons that you would enter. And maybe that was just because after playing it enough times, you sort of picked up on patterns subconsciously. Yep, it feels kind of messy with that. Yeah. Like there's a fine line between making things random for the sake of like trying to make it more interesting. Like there's a point where like it feels lazy, and there's a point where it feels well thought out. And I don't even know that Diablo and Diablo 2 were well thought out in that sense, or if it was just like, hey, how can we make this better without, like what's like the lowest hanging fruit, right? But something about that, like, I guess in Diablo's case, the way they used random numbers was more like gambling, right? Which is basically what it is, right? Their RNG is more like gambling, but it felt maybe more like you had more control over, or it felt a little bit more predictable. I don't know. I know what it is. In Diablo, you have state that carries over, right? Your character's level, your character's abilities, your character's inventory, all that stuff carries over from game to game. But the roguelikes, you start from zero every time. I don't like to start from zero every time. That's the mechanic I don't like. And that's why I don't like well, it's not the only reason, but it's one reason why I don't like Battle Royale, because Battle Royale feels like every time you have to start from zero, you have to scavenge for items. You don't know what kind of items you're going to get. So, yeah, I get why it's interesting to some people, because you start off in a different situation and then you have these different matchups. Like on paper, it's interesting, but to me, that just frustrates me. On that terms, I really like old RPG games, like balanced ones with graphics with user. Yeah, yeah, and like I'm playing through a lot of these games now with through the lens of someone who's trying to make my own games, and I can see where they cut corners, and I can see where it was like, yeah, maybe this mechanic wasn't the greatest, maybe this wasn't the greatest idea, but there's like a certain comfort with it, right? So there's like a category of games that I would call comfort, which is like, hey, I'm tired after a long day of work. I just want to sit down and relax. There are relaxing games, right? And like some of those older RPGs, I think fit that element. And then you've got these like single player games that are also really stressful, but some people like that. Maybe those people don't really play like the competitive shooters and stuff like that, is what I think. And that's like hey, I want to play something that I can be really skilled at. And that's where like the Dark Souls games sort of fit in. Right? Where there's like a very apparent demand for like mechanical mastery and strategy. Right? That's Dark Souls, I think. What did Unity add natively? Unity 6 updated the default inspector UI for serialized fields. In modern Unity versions, if you mark a field with serialized reference without any extra attributes, Unity's default property field UI will show a tiny built-in dropdown, allowing you to pick a type. However, most developers still install this package because it adds a search filtering. So now it comes down to, do I want to install another dependency? Let me search for this. Search Unity registry. I actually do have, I'm pretty sure I paid for Odin, and then I decided just not to use it. Isn't that crazy? I was like, wow, this Odin thing looks insane. I just bought it instantly. And then I was like, on second thought, I don't really, like, I want to learn more Unity without leaning on some of these things as a crutch, some of these advanced features. The other thing I can do is I can spin up because I'm curious if upgrading is worth it. Maybe what I should do here is build out a small project. This is all scope creeping way too hard, but I'm like curious to see if this is possible. My original goal for today, what the heck am I looking at? Hide in talk. This is VS Code. I don't know what this was for. This is for something. I remember doing this, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, I remember what that was. That was for a presentation I was doing. What we can do is we can build a small test project outside of this project in the latest version of Unity, just to see what happens. Project name. We'll call this test serialization test. Where's that going? Under code. It says Universal 3D, Universal 2D. Doesn't matter. That's going to use Unity 6. That's great. I won't disturb you anymore with work, but it feels nice to know point of view of the developer. Yeah, no problem. Are you, what brings you in here? Are you also game developer trying to get some ideas or working on some projects? I'm just going to kind of try to truck through this to see if I can figure out a strategy that makes sense. And it might be easier to just do this as a test in a separate project anyways. Right? And then try to bring it into this project instead of trying to retrofit my current project and trying not to break things along the way. What's involved in upgrading from Unity 2022.3 to Unity 6? There's a major version engine bump, but because Unity skipped the usual 2023 branding, the jump feels bigger than it actually is. Prerequisites. Audit plugins and dependencies, check platform SDKs, lighting and global illumination, environment baking and auto light changes, rendering pipelines, share more underlying structure, GPU drawer, UI toolkit and events, input system defaults. Step-by-step upgrade, backup, clear local caches, open project Unity 6, delete transient folders, first launch update API. If you need the 6 features, GPU resident drawer, web GPU, platform toolkit. Platform toolkit might be something I need. I don't know if that's platform toolkit's what I think it is. I'm hesitant to upgrade though, for very good reasons. Also, if the performance is better on the newer version, like why the heck not? So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna create something similar, and then I'm gonna create fill-in scripts. Ooh, assets. Let's create a new folder called scripts. I'm just gonna dump everything in scripts because it's gonna be a small project, I hope. This up means there's an upgrade available, doesn't it? And, oh, update. Yeah, I'm SDE and I enjoy working in game development. I saw your stream. Oh, you'll see me here frequently. Cool. What kind of, are you a game like developer for work, or you do some other kind of software development? Because my background's also not in games. This kind of started as a hobby. Fill in. I'm also working on other non-game software projects at the same time. Actually, the chat overlay I'm using is one of the projects that I was working on. I started doing this multi-streaming recently, and I started, I'm using a custom, is that the right word? Custom Docker image for it. And it sort of like restreams. It takes one video stream and sends it out to multiple platforms. And there are some gaps in the functionality. There's no chat, like unified chat thing for overlay or for um, like docking it in the streaming software. So I started making my own a few days ago. I see. Anvud. Hey, how's it going? So that's why we have like people on Twitch and then people on YouTube in the same chat. There was nothing for that. I mean, there are some paid services for it, and there's some free ones too, like Streamlabs. But I basically started building my own because, and it is a pain in the neck because the way it works is they do most of the ones out there do authentication, like some OAuth authentication through the individual, I guess, service providers, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, Facebook, etc. And you would just connect your account. But the way that those platforms work is it's like a one-to-one. So you have one account and it links you to, one Twitch account, one YouTube account. And I guess, I don't know, I guess I could just create multiple accounts, right? But then you'd have to like log out and log back in or sign into multiples. It's like, yeah, yucky. And then the other service that I was using was really slow to load. What does jinx mean? Jinx is like a curse. Where did you see jinx? So the service that I made is designed that you can connect it to multiple different sources, and even with the OAuth, you can OAuth connect multiple separate accounts from the same service. So you can connect multiple Twitch accounts, you can connect multiple YouTube accounts, and then the app itself has different profiles that you can sort of switch between. Actually, I'm a backend developer, web stuff, and also was working with game dev tech, and I'm thinking about taking full-time opportunity because I actually enjoy game dev more. Yeah, backend's I've never done backend, but they're typing it in Valorant, and I don't know what does it mean. Oh, Jinx. There's no character named Jinx. That's League of Legends, I think. But Jinx is also something. What's the word? Is it like a superstition, right? That we have that sometimes if you say something when you're speaking, if you and someone else say something, the exact same words at the same time, you say jinx. That doesn't really mean anything, but it's just a thing that we would do. And like, when you're a kid, you're like, no, don't jinx me. Or to jinx someone, it's like to, if you jinx someone, it's kind of like a curse, but what it really means is like if you jinx somebody, it's like you kind of like wishing bad luck on them. So Satya, you do back-end work. I have a question for you because I'm debating. Probably know what you're going to say, but I am debating. So I'm going to start working on another project soon, which is going to be, it's going to have a back end and it's going to have some mobile clients. So it's a bad thing. Yeah. Yeah. But like, I wouldn't get angry if somebody said it. It's like not a good thing, but it's not like a mean thing on Vood. It's just, I don't know, like people being kids. Or like another example on Vood, like let's say you're like playing basketball with somebody, right? You're throwing balls into the net. You're not like playing the game, you're just kind of shooting hoops. I don't know. You're just shooting the ball into the net, into the basket. Sometimes what kids would say is like, as you go to take your shot, they go, jinx, like, don't mess up. And like, then you feel like, oh, you jinxed me. I messed up because you told me to mess up. It's like, but it doesn't mean anything. So for my back-end project, Satya, for the back-end portion of my project, I'm like, what language should I use? And I'm like, I've never touched Go in my life, but it seems like fairly simple, and it seems like backend for mobile apps. Yeah, well, it's going to be a multi-platform, so it's going to be mobile apps and it's going to be a web app. Why do you keep asking me this? well, yeah, that makes. Oh, because I clicked on it so many times. I understand now. That's so funny. That's so funny. Okay, because I clicked on it a billion times. I didn't realize there was like this modal window that popped up over here. Okay. So yeah, I was like, do I touch Go? Like, I don't know. TypeScript seems nice to look at. I don't really like working in JavaScript. Go seems like it would be more performant and less, intense on my system resources. And then the other part of me is like, when I look at the Go code, I'm like, well, this doesn't look particularly nice to look at, but maybe if I stare at it long enough, it'll start looking good. Like that happens, right? Like you just stare at something long enough, it starts to look good. And the other part of me is like, I want to try building a backend in Swift with the Vapor framework. And Swift Vapor framework looks like Express.js, but it's in Swift. So it's strongly typed. And I love Swift. It's a great language. Advantage of using Swift is I can reuse all the models and validation across from backend to iOS anyways. But then I kind of want to try doing some protobuf stuff like that, protobuf, and try that, which doesn't really matter if you have something like protobuf or like Thrift. Doesn't really, I don't think, matter that much. I don't think you save a ton by sharing models, is my personal opinion, but I don't know, maybe you do. And maybe that's because like every time I've ever had to do mobile, it's like we always have to create our own models, It's like, expected. Go is kind of great. I think if user base is limited for now and for tests, you can use Python. Yeah, Python was another thing I considered. Like Fast API seems interesting to me. And it seems really good for like prototyping. But because I know the user base isn't going to be big at all. But I also, part of me wanted to try, because I've never used a compiled language for a backend. Part of me wanted to try a compiled language for the backend. And so once you get into that, it's like Swift is very unusual, right? But Swift, Go is probably the most common. Go or Java or Kotlin. But I want to avoid the JVM because JVM seems kind of heavy on system resources. Fast API is a great pick for that. Yeah. Fast API seems super cool. Like I wanted to learn Fast API because it's just like, oh, wow, this seems really neat. But I feel the same way about Swift backend. I don't know if you've ever done any Swift programming, but I really like the Swift language and the Vapor framework seems cool. But I expect to get some friction there because it's mostly an Apple product. And I don't know what that's going to be like doing Swift backend if I have to deploy to Linux. There is some Linux support, but like I think Foundation, some of the core libraries for Swift, maybe not. There might not be like a Linux variation to it. Fast is actually great for service handling and rerouting. What do you mean by service handling? Do you mean as like middleware, like to dispatch things like, I don't know, authentication checks and stuff like that? I don't know a ton about backend. I just like play with it a little bit. I was for work I do mostly mobile software, like just regular mobile apps. Let me get into the meat of what I was trying to do here. Public class. Ooh, how are we going to do this? I need a state machine. Oh, this is going to require so much boilerplate. Hello, Gemini. Make me a basic state machine that I can test with that uses a map dictionary to map and enum key to a concrete to a state class. Everything. What does everything mean? Like I've worked at companies that our primary backend is in Python. I've worked at companies that we have both JavaScript and Python and Java and Go. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. I've worked at companies like that. Hey, that's pretty fast. Faster than I could write it. State key iState. That's probably good enough. Input get key down. Input get key down will work regardless. This is good. This is a good boilerplate. I was thinking about Vapor for Swift, but to be honest, haven't got that much flow. What do you mean it got that much flow? I did go through, I bought the, oh gosh, who is it? They make really good Swift books. Well, they made a really good book on RX Java. RX Java? RX Swift. And Combine. And I started buying their books because they were pretty good. I don't remember what the, hold on, it's in my books. Let me find my books real quick. I have it in my ebooks. Books. Can I search? This one. I don't remember how to use this program. RX Swift. In your library. I see that, but I want to like... I want to like go to the entry so I can show you like the cover of the book without going all the way back to the beginning of the book. Oh, here it is. I'm going to show you all my books. Well, that's fine. I have like multiple versions of the same book here, but this RX Swift book here is the book I'm talking about. I forget who makes this, but that book in particular was a lifesaver. And then they made one for Vapor. Oh, that was the one I had up there also. Server-side Swift with Vapor. That was a very good book. And I think was it Vapor? The website also had very good tutorials on it. I think the website was maybe even better than the book. Vapor is really cool. I do like Vapor a lot. It's basically like a more typed Express.js kind of thing. And it has stuff built in for migrations, like database migrations and stuff like that. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it. Oh no, I'm going to need system. Put that back. Okay. Now my mono behavior. A state entry. And we'll make a state entry internal. Doesn't have to be internal. Class state entry does have to be serializable. And we're going to have a state key. We're not going to have a time. We're going to have an iState. And this is going to be a serialize. Hello. Reference. And this is going to be a serialized field. Let's just start with that and see what that does. And that is not the right project because my shortcut key goes to the old version of Unity. Did that not do anything? Hello? Oh, because this is private, but it's not serialized. States. Yeah, this doesn't do jack shit because these aren't serialized either. So my interface, I don't think it's serialized. Oh, maybe. I don't think I can put that on an interface. Yeah, I have to use that on struct. These all use an interface. I think I can just change it to a class. Where'd that go? It doesn't make any sense based on the name, but that's okay. Oops, I did it again. Update is inaccessible. Oh, due to its protection level. Right, because now that it is a class, it is no longer public by default, which means I have to make it virtual. Make enter non-virtual. Okie dokie. Oh, because public, that's the issue. It's complaining that the subclass is public and the parent is private. Okay, so I think this proves that this thing's full of shit. Oh, wait, these aren't serializable. Hold the phone. I might have to add this on all of these. What's a basic state machine tester? I don't think I needed this. Oh my days. Yeah, I kind of did. But that's okay. Updates. Oh, this is a mono behavior. This is basically what I want the other class to be. I called it villain, but let's go like this. Let's take that, duplicate out current state. Sure. We could still do that too. We're not gonna muck around with this. Why is this not compiled, by the way? Oh, yeah, because that takes an entry, and the other thing was a dictionary. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't have to be perfect. Does not contain a definition for try get value. No accessible method try get value. Oh, yeah. Whoops, what is this? Transition to? Right. Well, okay. Because, right. Let me put this back. Private dictionary. Yeah, state dictionary. That'll get it to compile. I just needed to get the editor stuff working. I mean, there was React Native stuff for cross-platform, so there wasn't a specific need for Swift backend. Oh, I see. Yeah, React Native. React is like, I think if you ask any native mobile engineer, hey, what do you think about React Native? They'll be like, leave me alone. They'll be like, don't talk to me. Even the people I know who've tried it and they're like, yeah, it's okay. I really wouldn't want to do it though. It's like most people's reaction. Huh. I don't think this lets you serialize reference. I state. It doesn't let you pick it. It doesn't let you pick it. The inspector doesn't let me pick a class. This is what my entire sample project looks like. Oh, sorry. I missed this message. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, nothing to worry about. Yeah, my thing for wanting to do Swift in the backend is because I like Swift. So like experience, I think I expect to be a little bit better from the I like writing this kind of code perspective. And the other thing was I wanted to try a compiled language on the back end. I've done for my personal projects, I've done some back end work, and I did some full stack work a long time ago. But I've only used for backends. I've only used JavaScript and PHP. I've never done. I've done a little bit of work on Python backends, but I didn't create Python backend. So like I don't consider work at larger companies to be anything substantial. Like you might be able to learn a little bit of a language, but you're mostly learning the framework for that company that company built. Unity doesn't render class pickers for serialized reference by default. By using serialized reference, Unity supports polymorphic serialization, but out of the box, the default inspector draws standard polymorphic interface fields as null with no dropdowns. You need Unity's serialized reference dropdown attribute or a custom property drawer to pick classes visually. Your state dictionary is never initialized. That doesn't matter. Even if you populate the list. Right, I'm not even talking about that. The fixed code, serialized reference dropdown. Is that what they want? I know that the other thing has a bug in it. I was intentionally ignoring it. Serialized reference. There is no dropdown. I love how AI just makes things up for its own convenience. Comes from Odin Inspector. Auto-populate in code. Let Unity set up defaults automatically. Let's see if that even works. Is it awake? I don't know if this runs, or it might have to be on verify. Oh. My bad. What a pain in the butt state entry. Which means I need to go something like, well, let's just do like this is an experiment, right? So I don't care what anything actually looks like here. I just want to see how everything behaves. And I have to serialize that as well, or it won't show up. Yeah, that doesn't even show up. Or would that be also serialized reference? No, that doesn't make sense. Oh, awake. Right, that was the other thing. What was it? Validate? Which is going to reset it. This is like garbage, right? It's going to reset it every single time. But we just want to see if it works. Interesting. But there's still no field to set this to. Because my idea was, well, what if I created this as like a reference and then you could just drag and drop. You know what I'm saying? Like if I created a matching bank here that you could just drag and drop what you wanted from the state list into the thing. I was like, a really crappy way of doing it. Look at this. Look at that. So that much, this part actually works. It's just a matter of how I can get this to show up over there. Oh, I can't even check these? What in the heck? Is that because I'm fighting with isValidate? Probably. I guess, okay, so I have an idea. How do you check if it's empty? Yeah. That was just me fighting with validate because it was revalidating it every time. But there's still nothing for me to drag and drop into here. And why is that? State list. iState is a list of iStates. And what is the deal with iStates? iState itself is serializable. My list is obviously serializable, which is why I can see. Oh, state entry. Sorry, that's the one I need to be looking at. State entry. Serialized reference. So serialized field won't show. Serialized reference shows, but there's no way to assign it. But there's no field to drag and drop a value into. That is because serialized reference is designed for pure C# classes, not Unity assets or game objects. Unity's drag and drop box only appears for Unity object types. Oh, right. So that's a good point. So one of the things I was going to try is going into iState and making iState a mono behavior. Ho! Does this work? Now the fun part. None, iState. Why does that show up here though? I mean, on the other hand, if it's model behavior, yeah, you attach it or you do scriptable object or something, kind of like what I was saying to begin with, maybe scriptable object. And then you could just drag and drop instances in. Instead of new. Oh, well, that's why that's not working. Right. That's why that's not working. Oh, here it is. It came out. If you want states to be assets in your project that you can drag and drop into the inspector list, create asset menu, states idle. State SO, yes, they became scriptable objects. That's what I thought. So if we create them as scriptable objects, it's kind of what I thought from the beginning. This is a fun experiment we're doing here. So if we make them scriptable objects, it should work. I don't want to... Okay, so... Let's go back to here. I'm going to try to fix this myself. Scriptable object, but it's possible that everything changed so much that it's just faster to take their code and copy paste it in. And then just to use it for the state SO scriptable object, idle SO, so mono behavior, states, dictionary. Where is this states list? State SO. State SO. Oh. Let's just try this. State key. Ah. You kidding me? They didn't give me the state key. That's not a big deal because we can just go, what do we have? Idle patrol. Just those two? I mean, that's fine. Look, AI did it for us. We didn't even have to write a single line of code here. States. Oh, but that becomes a list. Right, which is what we wanted, question mark? Ah, because I see. What grouping actually makes sense here? Okay, well, let's go project, create, states, idle. Idle states, create states, patrol. And then this would allow me to go like this. Or, yeah. I'm going to put them as separate things. I'm going to put them as separate things. It could obviously be just one like state time. But I'm going to put them as separate things because I'm going to make like they don't all necessarily have the same things. Also, nothing pops up in here. I don't know why this is showing. Oh, okay. Yeah, the editor was just showing wrong. Idle time. So we could do it with scriptable objects. If we make them all scriptable objects. And then it can be completely dynamic. And the interesting thing about that is that those can be separate instances to do different things. Right. And then what? Then we have to have a way to mark the default state. Current states. Now, how does that work? Default state key, idle patrol. Oh, that's interesting. But that doesn't get used anywhere because this should be attack. But now it's like kind of disconnected because I could do this and I could remove this and then there's nothing to check this. But I guess I could do that on validate, right? So then the thing you would do to check that is you just make a on validate function. If is that what I want? Default state key is not state key idle. And state dictionary, I think we just want to say this. If state key dictionary does not contain the default state key. Log warning, and then default state key equals state dictionary dot keys dot get enumerator dot current. What the hell does current do? Current is a T key. Oh, okay. So that gets the first one, presumably. So let's see. Boom, it worked. And then if I do this, and I try to select attack, it's still going to idle first. Oh, because it's a dictionary. I don't think dictionaries in C# guarantee order, which makes sense. Or solution 2 is turn states into mono behavior, which I tried, but it didn't seem to work. To live as components attached to game objects in your scene so you can drag and drop, right? So I'd have to actually attach them. Components on C objects. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pure C# code, no drag and drop. So it works if I do it like this, which is actually, it is kind of cool, right? Because then what I could do, right? Then basically, this kind of shifts things to just being more editor focused then, right? So instead of changing code, I would be changing things in the editor. And so then you'd have things like this could be caret villain, right? And then this could be like caret attack state, caret idle state, caret patrol state, right? And then we would have like a folder caret, right? And then all these would live under here, and then we would have like a new we'd have like potato villain, right? And we would attach the villain scripts, and then we would create a new folder called potato. And then in here, we would have our create states, attack, potato, attack state, create states, idle, potato, idle state, create states, patrol, potato patrol state. And then when we come back here, we want to add a new one. We would go here, we say attack. Maybe we add a chase state. And then we would go like this, and then we go like this, and then we go like this. And then we would have here Chase state, chase, and then this would not be damage. This would be maybe, what's the word? Chase radius or detection radius. I'm putting in garbage numbers here. And then here we could say, oh, maybe potato has a potato chase state. And we go potato chase state, potato villain. And now we've got all of these, which is wonderful. Oh, what's this going to do? Yeah, I guess it just defaults to idle. So let me go here and just say attack, right? And now I'm going to set it to patrol. I'm going to set it to chase. I'm going to set it to... Is this erroring? No. Oh, because it's not running on validate. Let's make some code change. Oh, chase. We don't use it anymore. Oh, right. So let's go chase. Yeah, so that on validate didn't really do anything for us. .keys.first. Oh, which would just dictionary.keys. Oops. No, that just gets us the oops. Sequence contains no elements. Yeah, that is a problem. I guess on validate. Well, it's serialized, right? So I can just say validate diff state default key, and I can just run that here. Just gonna stop the error because it's not running the code anymore. And then when I hit play, then it will update it. I think, yeah, so that goes back to attack. Oh, but it doesn't save it. Awake. Awake doesn't happen. Why does the sequence contain no elements? It's got to be some race condition between when validate happens and when all these fields pop in. Poopy. Well, we tried to be smart, but that's okay. Let's just say that there's some pros and cons of doing this. And then let's just say we had another one. Let's just say we made one that's timed state slash timed. Now this one, this is where my stuff falls apart because this one, timed state, state time, right? This one I think is where this falls apart because this one has to have a state key, which I guess is fine because maybe this will be like patrol. And then maybe we have serialized field. Would it be iState or a state key? State key. Next state key. Just to try creating a dynamic one, because I now have that in my project. And then we go like this, states, timed, potato. What are you? Patrol timed key, same state, next state. Yeah, and then we can pick it from the keys. And then we would go here and we would add it as a patrol timed state. Then the thing here is we'd have to double click into this to edit the state time, to edit the configuration. It'd be nicer if we could expand it in here. Is there a way to show the scriptable objects serialized fields in place in the editor where my list shows the objects? Standard Union won't unpack a scriptable objects, but you can achieve inline by using a custom property drawer. Create an expandable attribute. Use this on any scriptable field or list scriptable object. Right. Expandable. Even though it's called expandable attribute? Okay, I don't know. Custom property drawer. This has to go under editor. Cool, let's try it. What was it called? Expandable drawer. Let's see what happens. Oh my days. That's actually pretty sick. That's actually pretty sick. So if we make our states into scriptable objects, it does kind of work. And then we use the dictionary under the hood. Scriptable object state machine. So it goes from looking like this to looking like this. The after effect does look fairly clean, I have to say. Now let's test to make sure the machine actually works. I think if I go here, I'm probably going to get duplicate events. No, hold on. Let me delete this. Go here. Caret state idle. Let's go caret attack states. Patrol idle attack. Oh. What? Cannot be found. Idle state SO containing file and class name must match. Why? Wait, why? They don't mean this, right? That would be stupid. Oh, script cannot be loaded because the script has a compile error or because the script was deleted. Oh, I see. So it's telling me this script can't be found. Caret attack state. Maybe because I changed something. Attack state SO is still here. Let's try deleting these and creating new ones. I don't know what I did there. Oh, idle state SO containing file and class name must match. Is it because I added expandable? No errors. That is it. But on a property field declarations only. X is a property attribute. Can I also throw that in here? I don't know if that matters for anything. Oh, on any scriptable object field or a list of scriptable objects. Oh, okay. No, it has to be. So it has to be where it was. Because it didn't find it otherwise. Type cannot be found. That error means the C# compiler requires a file name in your project folder to match the C# class name exactly. Unity tries to auto-compile and reserialize a new scriptable object instance the moment you assign it in the inspector. When the class name and file don't match, Unity can't locate the file to serialize the changes. Find your script and ensure that the file is named and not patrol state or states.cs. Oh, yeah, class profile. That's what I was saying. Kind of thinking right now. Okay, so maybe this does work. We just have to move stuff, which we can do with some quick refactoring. Whoop. Things. That should get them out to their own files. So let's try that. I get the feeling like it didn't rebuild it though. Just to force it to rebuild. Nope, patrol state.so. Asset bundle none. Let's make another patrol. New caret patrol state. Okay, so I think it seems kind of finicky. The fact that I had to do this multiple times already. Carets patrol state. Oh, this is just chase state, sorry. Caret chase state. Because it says chase state SO. And then I'd have to go states, attack, carets, attack, state. That's probably fine, because I'm probably not going to declare them all in the same file anyway. Caret patrol state. That's fine. And then we would go here. We would create a potato state, potato villain. And then we have to, yeah, see, it's not finding these already. I would just go delete all these and remake them. Just to make sure. So we do idle, potato, idle states. Then we go states, chase, potato, chase state. Caret wasn't supposed to have a chase state, but that's okay. Idle, chase, attack. And then potato patrol state. So what does this have? Attack, patrol, chase. It should have idle. Let's delete this one. Just to make it more realistic. Doesn't really matter. Potato, idle state. Oops, this is not. So it should be caret. That's funny. Let's go like that. Does that not work? So let's do idle. It doesn't matter the order though. Idle, patrol, attack, chase. And the order doesn't matter, but we can do it just to organize it better. We can shift the order around. Huh. Idle, patrol. We'll remove that one. Oops, remove that whole item. Can I not delete the item? There we go. Idle, patrol, attack. Oh, wait, sorry. That one was right. I thought I was looking at this one. Oh, because I locked it. And then these can all have different values. Damage 4, 2, 3. Okay, now let me look at the code. Transition 2. So let's go to updates, and if get key, what is it called? Key dot, what is it? What's the function to call in updates to get a key press? Input system. No. This one, input dot get key down. Input dot get key down. 1. Name. Keycode.alpha. Transition to default state key. Oh, you know what? Var key code equals, or var index equals -1. Index equals 0. Else if alpha 2, thank you. If index is greater than 1, is greater than or equal to 0, transition to state set. Thank you. That'll cover me for now, just for testing things. Dot enter. And then let's go up here. Entering key. Oh, that's good. So basic. So nice. So basic and so nice. Okay. Go to console. Oh no. You were trying to read input using the engine, but you have switched active input handling to, but you have switched active input handling to input system package in player settings. Where the hell is player settings? Oh, player settings. Yeah, no, that's that word has a lot of meanings. They mean the Unity player. Input system. Where even is that? Oh. Wait, hold on. That's an error though? That doesn't work? I'm gonna try it anyways. Before I go crazy. Now, quick answer, it doesn't work. So project settings, player. Icon, resolution, splash image, other settings, could be literally anything. Graphics API for Mac. Ah, here we go. Active input handling. Input manager, old, both. Need some flexibility. Oh. Did not expect that to happen. I gotta hop off after this and eat breakfast because it is 10 a.m. and I have not eaten breakfast. Is Is a legacy manager not recommended for new projects? Yeah, no, that's fair. As long as you work, man, that's all I care. We're just testing stuff out here. We're just testing stuff out. Debug updater. That's interesting. You know, Villain Awake didn't fire either. Oh, yeah, it did. I had my debug messages. Villain Awake. Entering idle. Entering patrol. Entering patrol. You know, the reason for that is because I have lots of different things here. Can I get the... I see. What I'm thinking is pass in the object. Yeah, what the heck? What the heck? And then up here, why didn't this work? Because it's private. Because it's private. Julio, Julio. Now we're going to put name, carrot, name, potato. Which I should actually probably add that as a field anyways. Since they're so generic. Entering idle, entering patrol. Wait, why is it? Did it not compile? These all override the parents. Can we just not do that? Let's just not do that. We don't need to override that. We have a default implementation that is doing the work for us. So this is an interesting way to do this. Villain potato entering idle. Oh, because I forgot you don't need the dollar sign. Whatever. It's kind of easy to read, so I'm okay with it. Idle, attack. And why is carrot going to patrol? Oh yeah, carrot's going to patrol. And 3, carrot goes to idle. Carrot goes to idle. And then let's see, for potato, it should be idle, patrol, chase, state. For potato, idle, patrol, chase. And then I never hit 4. So then we go to attack. And then this one, I think I put an error. Index was out of range. Must be non-negative. Oh, right. Which is fine because we could just go here and say, and just do our bounds checking. Easy peasy. So now let's look 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll just hit carrot. We'll filter out carrot, attack, patrol, idle, attack, patrol, idle. And then this for potato should be idle, patrol, chase, attack, idle, patrol, chase, attack. Oof. I am a genius. I'm not that smart. I don't know if this is a good idea. On paper, it seems like a really good idea. So the simpler solution is to give The simple solution is to give all basic villains, to give them all the same set of states, and then serializing them, they all get to have their own custom fields anyways, and then we just turn them on or off. This one, scriptable objects, is more composable, but it's more editor work. Okay. I got my demo working using scriptable objects. Let's compare and contrast the two approaches. Approaches for convenience and performance overhead. Yellow, and you're yellow. What's up, Prokakapor? Prokar Kapor. I'm going to go with that. Feel free to correct me if I made a mistake there. Yellow. Let's compare and contrast the two approaches for convenience and performance overhead using a list of scriptable objects to assign to our state machine, or keeping the individual states objects for our states and assign to our state machine, or keeping individual states basic C# classes and just adding a serialized is enabled flag and on each. Congrats on getting the demo running. When building a state machine in Unity, deciding between scriptable object states versus pure C# classes with serialized reference comes down to whether you want your states to act as shared data assets or unique component data. What are you doing, sir? So, I was adding an enemy to my game, and then I hit this theoretical, hey, what happens if I have, and also, how the hell do you know so many spoken languages? I'll get to that one next. So I was adding a character to my, an enemy to my game, and I have this sort of generic villain class that I reuse the same class for all of my basic villains. And I'm kind of doing a little experiment now to sort of weigh the pros and cons between making it a little bit more dynamic and making it a little bit more dumb and simple. So what we did is I created a simple demo project here. So here are my two villain objects, right? They both use the same villain class. There's a villain name, and then we have an array of states. And each state, oh my days, I just realized the individual states don't have the key. Why isn't the key serialized? Is that in the state SO? That is in the state SO. Okay, no problem. No big deal. Serialized field. Why doesn't that work? Oh, sorry. Wait, public abstract state. Excuse me? What does abstract do here? Oh, abstract forces the children to implement it, and that's why this doesn't work, because it's abstract. On this declaration is valid only on field declarations only. Oh, because it's not a field. That didn't work. So yeah, so basically the idea was figure out if we want to do something like this, where we can sort of drag and drop our different states into the state machine? Are you a job guy or the king? Huh? What does that mean? The job guy or the king? I'd like to be the king. Can we say I'm the king? King sounds nice. Oh yeah, it's not serializing that here, like at all. Why would that happen? I have it here. Redundant serialize attribute. Force Unity to serialize a field. Oh wait, because this is not serializable. I believe that is the solution to my problem. I believe incorrectly because I am not a very smart man. Huh. I had it working before. Serializable. Serialize field. Just serialize all the things. Also, I realize it's showing up in gray here, but it did that once before and it was actually wrong. Where it like popped in later. Yeah, this is weird. Time state SO. Hold on. Random. And then we'll add a villain component. And then we'll just create a new timed state. Oh, this one has a next state key. Oh. Right. Oh, there's default state key. I think what maybe happened. Yeah. So I think this is something I don't like about this is that I think if you change this model, like it might not even let me apply this anymore, right? No, it did. It's not what I expected to happen. So let's create, like, for example, a new caret attack state. Oh no, it's not coming in still. But for some reason, next state key, oh, is a state key. Abstract state key. For why? Because I think because it's not a field. I think it's why. And then how do we implement? Oh, okay, because it's a function. Like, do you do a job and then do some game dev stuff, or are you hereditary rich and do this for fun? I wish I was hereditary rich and do this for fun. This is my job right now, but I'm going to be probably looking for some other work soon, basically. But my job is in the software field. So I think this has to be a field. Can that just be a field? I see. It was doing this to avoid... I think that's just cosmetic, though. Like, we want them to have default values, but at the same time, because I can't make a field abstract, right? And these are all breaking because of this. But that's redeclaring the field, right? It hides it, yeah. So what I would actually have to do, how do we make the defaults? I'm just going to delete them for now. Which would make all of this manual, but let's just see if it updates, is what I want to see. It does. Oh, look at that. So we could assign this state to that kind of. So this looks not too bad. Well, bro, so long. Okay, you heading out? Okay. I'm actually hopping off soon anyways. But then the way that I would fix this is I would just make a constructor. Does that work? And then in here, in the constructor, we would set the key equal to... oh, well, this one doesn't have one because that's a time state. But this one would be chase state SO key equals chase. We're just hacking some stuff together for a demo. Why doesn't... oh, because there's no parameter list. And it wants me to put the private word. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So we'll just go like this and here, and instead of this, this is a constructor. Ah, that's a funny error message, but I love it. I got to go back and change the value too because I wasn't paying attention. Patrol, right? So now we can set them to defaults. That makes sense. Attack, patrol. That's in the constructor though. Does that still allow me to override them? Is the other question. Just playing around with programming languages here. See what we can get away with Unity and in C#. I didn't change a darn thing. Oh, hey, look. It did change it to idle, patrol, chase. Oh, why did my settings disappear? Oh, gosh darn it. Once I add the constructor, it removed this for some reason. Force unit to serialize a private field. Why? Why does adding a constructor... didn't do it for idle state, apparently. Where's my idle state? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Not looking at the right project. Okay, so yes. But like, okay, so let's delete the idle state here. If I drag a new idle state, well, that's not a good example because idle is the default. So let's delete patrol, chase, and attack, and we'll re-add them as new ones. Patrol, and it doesn't default to patrol. Chase, which doesn't default to chase, and attack, which doesn't default to attack. Dang it. Yeah, so the question is, do I want to do something like this? Like, it seems like I can almost get what I want out of this. Or do I just do the simple, stupid thing and just having checkboxes that you could turn on and off? And then every character has all of them and you just have to remember to turn them on and off. Well, let's see what the synopsis was here. Scriptable objects, data sharing. Shared across instances. Edit patrol state SO asset and every enemy using it gets updated instantly. Per instance data. Every enemy instance gets its own unique copy of state parameters in the inspector. In its inspector. That is true. It's a little bit different, but I think the way that the data sharing works, that's basically the same. The scriptable objects get a little bit more flexibility. For example, if I create a basic attack with some basic attack parameters, I can use the basic attack on any kind of enemy. Versus every enemy, still I can do that, but then when I update it, I have to tweak each individual enemy separately. So that's actually kind of a win for the scriptable object, but then we have to create a new one every time we want it to be separate. So if we want it to be separate in general, this is less work. If we want it to be shared in general, this one's less work. File and code setup requires separate files for each, which is fine. Everything can live in a single one. I don't really care too much about this. Drag and drop assets using custom drawers like Expandable. Or direct inline fields like monobehavior. This is native and simple. Dynamic state creation requires calling instance or instantiate at runtime if state needs unique data. Instantiate with standard C# syntax. Performance and memory overhead. Scriptable objects inherit from Unity object. Each instance carries internal native C++ wrapper overhead. However, if multiple enemies share the exact same asset file, memory usage drops drastically because they point to a single memory address. Pure C# classes are very lightweight. They carry no native engine overhead. However, because Unity's serialized reference performs polymorphic serialization, deep graph duplication can sometimes add slight overhead. But I don't think we're going to use serialized reference if we use them. Runtime and execution overhead. Scriptable objects calling methods like enter or update on a scriptable object behaves like standard C# virtual method calls. However, if your scriptable object state accesses Unity APIs like getComponent or modifies runtime state, it either needs the reference to the villain, which we do anyways, or it must instantiate runtime copies. Pure C# classes minimal CPU overhead, method execution, and field access happen entirely in the pure managed C# memory with zero native to managed marshalling. Go with scriptable objects if states act as global templates or configurations. You have 50 generic guards that all share identical patrol speeds. Right. So that's kind of the conclusion I came to. Designers tweak data globally. That's the other thing. I'm the only person. But yeah, if you want people who are not in the code to be able to modify these, that's also a big win. And if you want state data saved across play sessions, values modified in SOs in the editor persist after exiting play mode. Go with C# classes if states are strictly runtime logic. The machine is just code execution and doesn't need to live as an asset file in your project folder. If you want per enemy customization, enemy A has this, enemy B has that on the exact same state. Direct in the scene editor. Zero asset management overhead. If you want to avoid populating your project folder, yeah, these are kind of the conclusions that I came to. I don't have the need for this yet, so I'm leaning towards not doing this yet. Especially because I kind of need to figure this out too. Right? I want it to be serialized, that it shows up. Right? In the sample you gave, state key is a property. Each class overrides. Is there a way to make these overridden property instances serializable so that they can be customized in the editor? For example, if I have a timed behavior state, which is more general purpose, I might use this, but I might not need this anymore. I might use this for any given state key. Yes, to make the key customizable in the inspector, you need to convert state key from a read-only property into a serialized field with a backing property. Oh, so to make them separate. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking also, which makes sense. And how do we set that to default value? Default value in children. The constructor doesn't seem to work for that. For setting default values on scriptology is that Unity overrides C# constructors during its asset serialization lifecycle. If you want a field in a constructor, Unity's deserializer will often override it with default or none when saving or loading the asset. That makes sense. In Unity, the correct place to set default values is in the reset message or using field initializers. Ah, set default key. This allows child classes to modify the parent's key field cleanly inside the reset. You can expose a protected method in your parent. Direct field initializers for class-specific fields. Use inline field initializer for non-inherited values and reset when you need dynamic values. Okay. Called once when the asset file is created in the editor. Oh, when it's created. Okay, let's try that real quick because that sounds pretty darn good to me. Actually don't know if that's needed. I don't think that's needed. Protected. Right. And then what I would do here, this goes away. And we have reset, which says set default key to chase. Oops. So that's cool. So then this happens when it gets created. It says the default. And so let's see what that looks like. I don't think it'll override these. No, it doesn't. But if I go here, caret only had 3. Let's delete all these. And go to caret. And again, delete all these. Doing a lot of deleting and recreating, but I think in practice we wouldn't have to do this. I think in practice we would do these just once because we would. This is me figuring it out right now. Caret patrol. So yeah, see, there it is. It's getting initialized to the right values. And then create attack. I'm gonna go to my caret 2, 3. I can just go down the list. It doesn't matter. Well, idle, sure, idle, patrol, attack, and then they get set righteously to the right values. I do kind of like this. I'm not like totally against this. So let's go here. I'm going to update this screenshot here in my notes. But what I want to do is reveal in file navigation and delete this. Scriptable object. State machine. So like they both take up the same amount of space. This one's a little bit more dynamic and more controllable through the editor. Is basically what it comes down to. it does require that one custom inspector thing, but that's fine. This one on the left maybe reads a little bit nicer. I think I'm going to start off doing this instead of going straight to the scriptable one. I'm going to start off doing this, and then I'm going to see how I like it. And then we'll move to the scriptable object if I need more flexibility, because I don't think I need this level of flexibility yet. But I'll do a pass where I go over and create all of my enemies, and then I'll see what I'm actually doing in practice. And if it makes sense to migrate to this, I'll migrate to this. Although, on the other hand, now is a better time to migrate because I only have 2 enemies. It's going to be less work for me to do this. So maybe I'll just go straight to this and we'll try out. Will be our bet. Yeah, we'll go to this and we'll see if we'd like the scriptable object state machine. Also, maybe it's not even compatible with my current setup. So it's probably better to fail fast and hard on this than to say, oh, later we'll change it and then find out later we can't change it. So I'm actually going to try to be a little bit more adventurous and go with this method first. And if it's like a real pain in the neck to get this working on my version of Unity also is another obstacle, then we'll just go with the simpler method and then we'll just live with the downsides, which I don't think is going to really affect us too much, but hey, whatever. We'll see. All right, I'm going to hop off now and I'll be back later. Catch you guys later. Peace.